Meagan Francis is a mother of 4 sons, Jacob, 13, Isaac, 11, William, 7, and Owen, who's 5, plus one hopelessly pampered daughter, 2-year-old Clara. Meagan has found herself getting happier with each child she's added to the family, possibly because she's loosened up her expectations and learned how to relax, or maybe because she can no longer remember how much easier life was before kids. Her new book, The Happiest Mom, 10 Secrets to Enjoying Motherhood, is all about the journey of going from cranky and overwhelmed to mostly satisfied with her life as an imperfect but good enough mother. You can find her online at thehappiestmom.com. Meagan will be reading Peace Amid the Poop.
There's some really tall girls before me, so. I never really understood the appeal of yoga until I had children. Looking back, I now know why. Before I had kids, pretty much my entire life was an exercise in relaxation. Then I became a mother, and suddenly the idea of spending 90 minutes in a dim, quiet room, stretching and listening to the soundtrack of chanting monks no longer seemed boring. It sounded miraculous. When my 2 oldest sons were small, I attended a local class pretty regularly for a few months. Savasana, also known as corpse pose, was my favorite part. All week long, I'd look forward to the end of yoga class when I could lie flat on my back, on the floor, in the middle of the day, without any small people climbing on my chest or trying to pry my eyelids open. Can you imagine? After the birth of my 3rd son, it became a lot more difficult to find time for class. And over the next couple of years, my yoga practice dwindled away, relegated to the occasional half-hearted downward dog in my bedroom or impulse-purchased instructional DVD, which I would follow along with a maximum of twice. But while pregnant with my 4th child, Owen, I saw a flyer that seemed to offer the perfect solution: mom and baby yoga. I signed up for the next session immediately. After all, what could be better than spending an hour and a half in blissful yogic union with my baby? And by this time, I already had 3 kids. I know, what was I thinking? Owen was born a few months later, and we got off to a bit of a rough start. He was a screamer, the kind of baby who'd shriek if his foot accidentally tapped against your arm, or if you didn't hold him precisely the way he wanted, which incidentally was also the way that within about 30 seconds made my arms burn like I'd been doing PX90. By the time the anticipated day of mom and baby yoga came, my nerves were frazzled, but I had high hopes as I pulled into the studio. Maybe the class would calm Owen, or maybe the practice would allow me to cope. I entered the studio with great expectations, took off Owen's little snowsuit, and rolled out my mat. But immediately and loudly, Owen decided that he did not like this new place. And then the other babies started in. Some whimpered, some cried, some screamed. The babies that weren't crying were either pooping or farting. The muffled sounds of miniature machine gun fire rose from diapers all across the room. By the time the instructor invited the class to join her in the sound of Om, the room had instead filled with the sounds of cries, flatulence, grunts, gulps, and an unmistakable odor. The instructor attempted to begin the class, but since she had to make herself heard amid the chorus of gurgles, cries, and belches, her voice wasn't exactly quiet and soothing. And now I would like for you to go inward and find that still, quiet place, for it is from this quiet place within us that we begin our practice of yoga. Class began. The instructor led us through a series of poses, but only about a quarter of the moms were actually doing them. The rest were bouncing and jiggling their babies, changing diapers, breastfeeding, or trying desperately to get their little squealers to quiet down. Owen had not stopped wailing since we walked into the room. I had not gotten myself into a single posture, nor had I experienced a nanosecond of calm. I was red-faced, sweating, and pretty much the opposite of peaceful. In fact, I felt like shouting indignantly, "This isn't yoga!" But what did I expect? This is motherhood. Babies don't care that you would really rather be in downward-facing dog. They just want to be held and fed and not left lying on a mat in a strange place. They try your patience, they tire your body, they don't cooperate, and they keep you guessing. Most of all, they teach you that most of your expectations for yourself, for them, for everyone around you are too high. Motherhood can be a practice too, if you let it. At some point, I gave up on trying to get in much stretching and simply retreated to the corner to nurse Owen, the one thing that always made him happy, and noticed the way his little fingers wrapped around my thumb. I tried to practice the yoga breathing exercises I'd heard during previous classes and tried to quiet my mind. It wasn't really yoga, but it was something like it. And as a mom of 4 with a newborn baby, and a fussy one to boot, I realized I'd have to learn to take what I could get. While the teacher led the other moms through the end of class savasana, I stayed put in my corner with Owen, trying not to be jealous, and held Owen, whose eyelids were fluttering down toward his cheeks. Finally, they stayed put. As the rest of the moms were packing up their bags and bundling up their babies and walking out of the room, I seized my last opportunity. I nestled my finally sleeping baby on his blanket, knelt on my mat, pressed my forehead to the floor, and laid my arms by my side in child's pose. I stayed there for a single breath, in and out, trying hard to practice gratitude for that one brief moment of grace.